Hello and welcome to the latest episode of It Stinks, the Critic podcast. I'm your host, Brian Rubinow, and I am coming to you from the new podcast studios because I have actually moved since the last time we spoke, or at least since the last episode I recorded. So, hopefully things are going to go just as well here. I would like to introduce my new guest for this episode. We're going to be looking at Season 1, Episode 11, A Day at the Races and a Night at the Opera. So, would you please help me welcome my guest for this episode, writer and audience development specialist, Sam Sero. Hello, Sam. Welcome.
How's it going, man?
It's going good. So... you were telling me you're a pretty big fan of The Critic.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the earliest shows that I got into. I remember it's funny. It's I obviously grew up a huge Simpsons fan. I'm sure when you 89 to 99 are the sweet years, and then through the Simpsons, obviously the Critic came on Fox afterwards and such. I mean, I forgot that it was on ABC at first, and then it was on Fox. But yeah, I'm actually really happy you started this podcast too, because now there's two podcasts about people talking about shows I love. It's yours and Michael Imperioli and Steven Sherpa do Talking Sopranos. Where they talk Sopranos. So
nice.
Yeah.
I love The Sopranos. And then Michael Imperioli, of course, was Christopher. And then, God, I can't remember who Steve Sharippa played on that show.
Bobby Bacala.
Oh, God. Okay, yeah. Oh, man, he was one of my favorite characters because he was the only guy who wasn't completely terrible.
Yeah, he never cheated on his wife, and I mean, he did end up with Tony's sister Janice, which is it deducts a point, but. But I think that's more on her because she sort of preyed on him at his most vulnerable. So
yeah, and he was also Uncle June's whipping boy for a while.
Yeah. I mean, he was the only one who probably cared more about him than Tony or Janice and stuff. I mean, but Tony at least had a good excuse. I mean, Uncle Junior did try to kill him twice, So
God, oh man. All right. Well, I think that's enough about The Sopranos. Let's get into The Critic. And actually, before I forget, I got a piece of email into the show. So if any listeners out there want to interact, want to send me a message, it's itstinkspod@gmail.com is where you send those emails. You can also hit me up on Twitter or Instagram @itstinkspod. But we got a message here. Subject line, forward, industrialist has just taken on job you. This is from Jake Cooper. He writes, good day. We have an exhilarating job chance in the vacant job of package manager in our expanding logistics enterprise. We offer a very generous base salary with other perks. We will also instruct you so that you gain success in your new position. Simply respond to this address and someone from our company will get back to you. Pay no mind to this email if not interested. Thanks for that message, Jake. I'll take that into consideration. So, yeah. Again, itstinkspod@gmail.com if you'd like to send any email messages. So, cool. All right. Sam, you ready to get into this episode?
Yep, let's do it.
Cool. So this is A Day at the Races and a Night at the Opera. The synopsis here says, Jay tries to help Marty overcome an inferiority complex by bringing him to see his psychiatrist. That was the synopsis it gave in the DVD notes, but that really only covers 10% of the episode.
Yeah, it's a very small portion of this one. Actually, when you told me about this episode, this one was one I admit this one I could not remember right off the bat what it was about. I mean, I thought I did a little research on the episode after I watched it too. I know that Ken Keeler wrote it, and he wrote he's actually the one who also wrote the Simpsons crossover episode too. actually with the Critic.
Oh yeah.
But I also appreciate that though that the episode is titled after two Marx Brothers movies. So
right. I think I've only seen Night at the Opera. I don't think I've seen Day at the Races, but yeah, I do love the Marx Brothers.
Oh yeah, I remember my dad would. Apparently, my dad always told me like whenever I was a baby or as a kid when I couldn't sleep, he'd take me downstairs and like for whatever reason like old comedy like black and white movies were on. So it's like that and Abbott Costello were like two of the earliest influences. So.
Oh yeah, I remember somehow like in the early '90s, like Blockbuster Video had like old Abbott and Costello like compilations on VHS.
I remember those.
Yeah, pretty sure my dad rented a couple of those for us. So that's like how I first saw, the Who's on First and all those classic routines.
It's funny because for a comedy duo, I never really remember Abbott being that funny and really like Lou Costello being the one like who had to carry the weight and stuff. It was kind of like he was kind of like an unfunny Ren where he would just like get annoyed with whatever stupid thing like Lou his Stimpy would do and then just like slap him or something or like.
Yeah, well, I mean, every duo you need the straight man to kind of just give the wacky guy something to play off of.
This is true.
Yeah. But yeah, so in this episode, yeah, we get a lot of Marty. We kind of focus on him for half of it. The other half is, again, this kind of familiar setup of Duke trying to get Jay to increase his ratings. But yeah, we get a lot of good stuff. Let's just start at the beginning where basically we're on Jay's show and he reviews Honey, I Ate the Kids with the characters from Silence of the Lambs.
Sweetheart, have you seen Timmy, Becky, and Alex?
I haven't seen them since lunch. We had fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Did you eat the kids again?
Clarice, you don't look so well. Let me take your temperature.
That's a meat thermometer?
So it is, Clarice.
Yeah, I love this parody. Sometimes they just get really goofy, but I thought this one really worked. Then Jay teases on his next show he's going to talk about child stars I've accidentally sat on. And then that just brings in Duke, who, again, just sets up this, like, trying to get Jay to increase his ratings thing, saying that Jay is losing viewers to the Dryer channel.
Oh, yeah. It's like, and that joke is great because it's like, people watch this?
Right. It kind of reminded me of like some of the weird shows you might see on like public access or just like surfing channels late at night.
Yeah. I didn't watch a lot of public access growing up. It's like I feel like I would watch like gubernatorial like debates on Pennsylvania public access show and stuff. It's like I think the last thing I ever saw was former Governor Ed Rendell was like debating like former Pittsburgh Steelers player Lynn Swann, who was running for governor in like 2006, and he was like talking about some like testing thing in schools. I was like, wait, I took this test. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, I actually did watch a bit of public access growing up. You see some weird stuff on there, of course. I actually saw One show that I would actually watch with a little regularity was called the Junior Christian Science Bible Lesson Show, which was a Saturday morning religious program hosted by David Unger Hart, who would later kind of go on to cult status when I think Tim and Eric discovered him and put him on Tim and Eric Awesome Show.
Nice.
He was like the puppeteer who would like sing weird songs.
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
those episodes
So yeah, he used to have a religious like kids puppet show on public access. It was pretty great.
I'll have to check that out. You know what's funny too is I remember that particular movie reference, the Honey Eat the Kids one. I was a weird kid. Like I remember like those moments I remember, and I would always quote that one a lot. And like to my friends, and like some of them just didn't plain old get it. And then I'd quote it to my mom, and my mom would get like weirded out by it because she knew the movie, and she was like, she liked The Simpsons but didn't like The Critic. She just thought it was stupid. It's like, It's like, you're not going around repeating this at school a lot, are you? I'm like, why?
Nice. Yeah, so that's it for that scene with Duke and Jay. So then we go from there to Marty's UN high school where they're having a field day where I guess everyone just plays a bunch of different sports for the parents or whatever. My school, I don't think they ever did anything like a field day. Like, I don't know. Is this a thing that schools do?
I have no idea. Like, to me, it's like, I went to public school my whole life, and I was just like, I knew we had recess and we played stuff, and we did I think like at the end of the year, we did a big thing in gym with like a big dodgeball event or something. But something like this, I have no idea. Like,
Yeah.
What's funny though is I did go to an international studies academy for my middle school year. Actually, it used to be named after Henry Clay Frick, who was just like this. He was kind of like the Koch brothers of Pittsburgh, like to a degree,
Okay.
but they renamed my middle school after Barack Obama. So
That's cool.
yeah. So, but it had kids from all different countries around. So it's like I was kind of connected with the UN school, but we never had anything like this though. So
Yeah, it's just basically, I don't know. I guess since it's like an international school, they do this kind of like Olympics kind of thing.
yeah.
Maybe. But so we get a bunch of different kids doing a bunch of different sports. I liked the girl from Bulgaria, Olga Testosterov, throwing shot put.
Now in the shot put, Marty Sherman versus Bulgaria's Olga Testosterov.
Hey, Olga, your mother called. She said moo. Oh, skull cracked, brains leaking out. Can't wait to see new Chevy Chase movie.
And of course, the Easter Island kids jokes are always great. Like,
Oh yeah, this episode introduces the Easter Island kid. Yeah, so yeah, just basically a kid whose head is a giant statue and he's always like tipping over. Pretty simple joke, but yeah, they get a lot of mileage out of it.
yeah, it became a really good recurring joke throughout the series, especially in season 2. So
Oh yeah, so we're gonna get a lot more from, well, sadly, the unnamed Easter Island kid. They never actually give him a name. But yeah, but I know at one point we even see his parents, who of course are just adults with also giant Easter Island heads. You get it.
yeah.
But so basically the whole thing with this field day is that Marty basically sucks at sports. He does a bunch of different things and he just doesn't do well at any of them. He attempts the long jump. He actually manages to jump backwards.
Our next event is the long jump. I'm afraid you've actually gone back a few feet. You would have been better off just standing there.
And I can relate to this. I was pretty bad at sports as a kid, and still am as far as that goes.
I never really liked gym growing up. Especially since like I never understood the idea of making little kids climb a rope up to the ceiling. I'm like, why? Like, let's just get out the parachute, or like, throwing a ball, like hitting another kid with a red rubber ball. It's a little brutal, but at least it's fun. But why? And those mats are not going to save me. Like those gym mats are shit.
Oh no, and if you have to rely on your fellow kids to catch you, they're not going to do that.
Yeah, not really well thought. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for having make kids go and exercise, do physical education. It's just like be a little bit smarter with this one,
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, by the end of field day, Marty's pretty sad he didn't win any medals, but he does get the booby prize from President Mangosuthu, which is just like a trophy with just like a horse's ass on it.
Is that like the earliest form of a participation trophy that you can get?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that's like literally a participation trophy. But also, I would say Critic fans, pay attention to the fact that it is a horse's ass. That is actually going to come back in a season 2 episode, especially connected with President Mangosuthu and the UN school. Basically, Marty has to build a parade float on his own, but no one helps him. So all he's able to make is the 2 rear legs of a horse, and so he makes a parade float that's just a giant horse's ass.
And the favorite part about that joke too is like that's when they were just on Fox. They just turn. It's like just Jay turns and goes, "You're watching Fox. You give us 30 minutes, we'll give you a giant horse's ass."
Yes, that is one of the jokes that I saw that as a kid and it just stuck with me because like that joke just made me just bust out laughing so hard. Just the giant horse's ass and just that whole thing. So good.
I think every time I drive past the Fox studios, I just think that should be their slogan.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. So that. So that's the end of Act 1. As we begin Act 2, Jay has taken Marty to try to cheer him up. He's taking him to Two Guys in Hairnets Pizza, which pretty simple joke, but I like it. And so Jay says, instead of really trying to cheer him up, he says, "Oh, just try to forget your failures and move on," like he has. And then he's surrounded by this like black cloud that just envelops him, and then we get this flashback of him on his wedding night shattering a waterbed.
It's coming back!
Ooh, a waterbed. Was it as good for you, baby?
Yikes. I gotta wonder how much water was actually in that waterbed because it floods the entire building.
When did waterbeds when did people stop doing like waterbeds? I remember like my younger brother had a waterbed at our house in the early 90s. I think obviously they became somewhat of a safety hazard, I think, but was it like just the mid 90s? People were like, okay, no more waterbeds. This is stupid.
Yeah, it was definitely a fad. I don't exactly know when it started, but I remember, like it was always like your weird friend or like, the weird guy who lives down the street that had the waterbed. It was never like, the normal, like everyday, like, nuclear family that slept on a waterbed. I think, are you familiar with the Topanga area of LA?
I think I've been driven through it before at some point. So
yeah, it's basically, it's kind of a mountain community where basically a bunch of old hippies live. There's a lot of like new age stuff you can find there. I'm pretty sure that's where I encountered my first waterbed was in like a friend of my parents. Again, a weird old hippie from the 60s who had a waterbed.
I just don't understand how people could sleep on those. It's like as somebody who like, unless I'm like cuddling with someone in bed, I'm just going to be tossing and turning and like readjusting myself. So I don't foresee like how I can do that in a waterbed.
Yeah, because they give zero support because it's water. Yeah, it's weird. I guess the selling point, I guess, is you feel like you're floating, I guess, but no, because you don't sink and then float like you would in a pool or something. You're on top of this weird mattress that offers zero support.
And then what happens if like it starts to leak or float? Do you then get the simulation drowning? It becomes a water bed and turns into a waterboarding bed.
God. Yeah, I mean, I assume if it starts leaking, you just, God, I don't know, get all the valuables out of the house.
Yeah.
So after that kind of flashback thing, Jay says they have to find what Marty is good at. And who overhears that but Steve Allen doing his own voice. Steve Allen, the comedian slash musician slash like 1,000 other things that he did.
And in my case, it's writing books, songs, playing the piano, hosting TV shows.
Steve Allen.
Designing office furniture, mediating border disputes, playing bass for Metallica, and communicating with porpoises. Your dad's right, Marty. You can read all about it in my book, Steve Allen's Advice to Marty.
Thanks, Mr. Allen, but...
No time, Marty. My shift's over, and I feel an operetta coming on.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like how I first heard of Steve Allen. I think he was probably the guy who I thought did Hello Mother, Hello Father. You know,
yeah. What's that guy's name? It's
that's Alan Sherman.
That's right.
Not Steve Allen, but yeah. Though I did there used to be a theater here in LA called the Steve Allen Theater that I was a big fan of. They had a lot of great comedy shows and variety shows and things that you wouldn't see anywhere else. It was a great, really unique space that just unfortunately isn't around anymore.
Was that in Hollywood or North Hollywood?
It was in Hollywood. It was on Hollywood Boulevard, like between Normandy and Vermont.
Gotcha. Isn't there a theater in New York? Because I know Steve Allen was like technically the first Tonight Show host, but I was thinking like, isn't that where like they shoot Colbert? No, it's the Ed Sullivan Theater.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there should be more than one theater named after Steve Allen. He deserves it.
Yeah. I mean, he started it all. It's by the way, when you were growing up, like which in your household, especially during the 90s, were you a Leno household or Letterman household, or were you a
I gotta say I preferred Letterman. I always thought Leno was just kind of lame and boring, and I don't know. I was just a sucker for the simple hook of the top 10 list.
Oh yeah,
and then like stupid human tricks or whatever. I just dug kind of Letterman's whole kind of sense of humor, which was a little more like jaded and cynical at times. I just kind of connected with that more.
Oh, absolutely. Just very dry, very, I think him and Paul Schaefer were a great duo. I still think in terms of late night TV show, I think Andy Richter is still the greatest, like, TV show sidekick you can have,
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like, there were times that I think on Conan's, like, old show, I thought there were times, not that I don't like Conan, I do. It's just, I think there were just times where, like, Andy stole the show a lot of the times, just, like, his littlest bits or just his most subtle, like, moments.
Sure, yeah. No, I admittedly, like, I didn't start watching Conan until, like, I got to college, and by that time, I think Andy was gone. So I haven't seen a lot of the classic Andy Richter moments, but, I mean, I loved him on Arrested Development when he had his arc on that show, and he's hilarious on Twitter. I follow him on Twitter, where he's great. Yeah, in college, I pretty much just watched Conan, where I was a big fan of, like, the masturbating bear and like all the Triumph the insult comic dog.
Oh my God, that is still. I think that is Robert Smigel has given us so much joy.
Oh yeah,
but that by far is still one of the greatest things. And the best part was when Conan moved the show to TBS. One of the funniest like Triumph the insult comic dog moments was like once they. I mean, a lot of them, when they moved to TBS, like they did a whole week where they did a show in Chicago, and they went to what was called the meanest place in Southside Chicago, where the people who owned it would make fun of the people and such. And they sent Jack Brayer, the nicest guy they know there.
Yes, I've seen that one. Yeah, that was legendary. Also the one where Triumph goes to the Star Wars line.
Yeah, he's like just the Darth Vader guy. He's like, is he set button to call your mommy?
Oh God, so good. But yeah, Robert Smigel, definitely underrated. I was a big fan of TV Funhouse when that was on. Well, both like the spin-off TV show and just like the cartoon shorts on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, Colbert and Carell doing the ambiguously gay duo. But I always loved the ex-presidents though. I thought that one was. Because because the other thing that was great about Critic, especially with Ken Keeler writing this episode and going on to Futurama, was always the president jokes. And like my favorite was just like the Gerald Ford jokes where it's like Ronald Reagan, Mr. Gorbachev, I'm going to kick your ass. Jimmy Carter, I'm to kick your ass. Gerald Ford, hey.
I think the TV Funhouse moment from SNL that I always remember was I forget like what the setup was, but it was, I don't know, it was something about like all the catchphrase characters that there would be. He was like making fun of, like he was doing like maybe the life of a catchphrase or something, and it takes this sidebar where Lorne Michaels is talking to Satan, and Lorne Michaels is like, okay, that's it, deal's off, you never said it would get this bad. I think they removed that part from syndication.
I do remember that bit too, and actually, I thought you were going to refer to another bit where Lorne Michaels is talking about the art of like a character and a catchphrase, where it's like they show like Molly Shannon's like I love it characters. Like remember rule 3, as everyone laughs, if you do it a 4th time, love it. Everyone goes boo. Yeah. Okay, next guy. Now this is the one guy you won't remember. It's like, I forget what Joe Piscopo's reoccurring like line was, but everyone applauds, and it's like, okay, anything else that comes out of this guy? Hello, I'm Joe Piscopo. Boo! But they actually do fun of John Lovitz in that one.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think they did "That's the Ticket" or whatever. Yeah. Oh yeah. All right. So I guess back to the episode here. Sorry. So I think after the pizza restaurant, that's where we go back to Jay's show, where now Duke kind of brings in, I gotta say, this really just kind of contrived plot device where he's like, after Them magazine says Jay is the wittiest person alive.
Well, we're back, and...
Folks, this magazine says Jay's the wittiest man alive, so I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Watch Jay for a month, you don't laugh, I pay you $100. Get cracking, wit boy.
Okay, pretty, like, the kind of thing that would only happen in a dumb sitcom, right? Like, it's just such a ridiculous setup.
Yeah, and it also goes to show, like, how much money does Duke Phillips really have, you know?
Yeah. I mean, he's like a billionaire.
Or is he one of those billionaires who doesn't want to show his tax returns, you know? So
yeah, I mean, if he's based on Ted Turner, who I think, actually made something. So I think he did have actual wealth. He's not like someone who just inherited wealth or something like that.
That's right.
Yeah. So after that scene, that's where we get the scene alluded to in the synopsis, Jay and Marty at the psychiatrist. And I think kind of just nothing really important happens in this scene. Just the psychiatrist is secretly doing a crossword puzzle, which is, how many times have we seen that joke? But I did enjoy that, just the fact that both Jay and Marty are laying on couches, like it's like they're both seeing the psychiatrist at the same time.
Yeah, it's like what does he say? He says it's like I'm afraid to like tell my father or be honest with my father, and then he's like, I'm afraid to just let down my son, sort of thing. It's like he's just basically blatantly like lying to him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Jay, give him credit for being a good dad, but like, yeah, he does it to a fault where he gets into, I think a thing called toxic positivity where, he refuses to acknowledge the things that are bad or the things that need to be improved upon.
I always thought, like, in terms of the animated TV dads, he was one of the better fathers, because it's like, we talk a lot. It's like we talk a lot about, especially the Fox Lion and other Fox TV dads. It's like, it's like we all want to say Homer's a good dad, but he strangles his kid, so it's like he's got a drinking problem clearly. So it's like, I mean, he comes around. He has his like moments of like his like his redeeming qualities, but it's like you still also strangle your kids. Yeah. So it's a big like, it's a big it's a big scratch right there. And then you have like Hank Hill, for example, who Oh man, I've had people get into ugly debates about whether he's a good or bad father, but he is. I don't think he's the best father. I mean, he does make fun of Bobby a lot, and he's so repressed. He's incapable of showing emotion.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think Jay is a pretty good dad as well. It's like you couldn't possibly imagine him choking his son the way Homer would. But yeah, I mean, he's not perfect. I don't think any dad is. But on the whole, yeah, I wouldn't mind having Jay as a dad.
Yeah, me neither. I think
yeah, imagine all the free movies you'd get to see.
This is true.
Yeah. All right, so then we go to Duke's office, where Duke basically wants Jay to use this like electronic toy that you press a button on it and it just shouts an insult.
Son, I want you to go on the air with this.
Shove it, kiss off, you smell.
You smell? I never see it coming.
I'm not going on the air with that thing.
All right, I'll give the box its own sitcom. It's called Shove It. Kiss Off, You Smell.
Which I also remember there was a toy like this from the 90s. I don't remember what it was called, but yeah, it was basically just like a little electronic box with buttons on it, and you'd press it and it would shout an insult at you.
Was it like a little keychain thing that you had? Like, I think I remember it being like, I think there was a keychain version of it and a regular version of it. So
I remember it being bigger than that. I actually remember it having like a belt clip on it, so you could clip it to your belt. It was like a walkie-talkie sized thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I could remember what it was called.
I feel like all of us growing up in the 90s had like one of those, like, I feel like in the 90s it was easier to like be on like those fads, because those fads were like they weren't like super expensive or anything. Like anybody could get on them. I mean, like Pogs, like
yeah.
Who thought cardboard like little things would just introduce kids to the world of gambling,
Right. Oh yeah, I went through a Pogs phase for sure.
I had a whole Simpsons mug collection. Those were the only Pogs I would never want to like gamble away, because like I'm sure like if you went to your local comic book store or something, they had a big barrel of them and stuff, and you could buy a bunch for like $1 or something. So
yeah, and yeah, like every property or every thing a kid could like would have Pogs. Like I remember having X-Men Pogs, things like that. Wait, how did we get onto Pogs? Oh yeah, just dumb 90s toys.
Yeah, like sorry, 90s toys like that. Like, of course, there was the red lasers. We all remember those. Like,
of course. Yeah. So then Duke says he wants to give the box its own sitcom, which is great. I would probably watch that. But then from there, we get maybe my favorite gag of the show. Like, Duke says he wants to find a way to make Jay funny, so his way to do that is to pair him with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and they do like a ventriloquist act.
Welcome to Coming Attractions. I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and this is Little Knothead.
This is so demeaning. I have a PhD in film.
Okay, Dr. Knothead, why don't you sing John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt while I drink a glass of water?
John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. That's my name, too.
I spit in the water.
Knothead.
It's funny. I always remember this cutaway joke. I just never remembered like what episode it was from until this one. And then once that came up, I immediately got excited. I'm like, oh, it's the Nuthead bit.
Yeah, I gotta say, some of the funniest jokes have that problem because they're so disconnected from the main plot. Because like, I used to have trouble remembering where the Marlon Brando the Orson Welles commercials were, like the fish sticks thing.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so sometimes you just can't remember where those jokes are. But yeah, this Kareem Abdul-Jabbar thing, classic. He calls him Little Knothead. Love it.
I spit in the water.
So yeah, from there, Jay takes Marty to the mall to sign him up for a judo class, which again, I guess another kind of 90s thing. I think like every kid took karate at one point, or some sort of martial art. Because like we had the Ninja Turtles, we had the Karate Kid, just like karate was like the big thing. Everyone wanted to do it for some reason.
I mean, I made it up to my orange belt and then got bored and then did community theater. So
yeah, I never had the discipline to stick with it for long.
It was I see my cousin Kelly has 3 kids, and like they're like all 3 of them are just like super, like they're 11 and 13 and like 9. They're all super good at like athlete, you know, like whether it's wrestling or football or something. But I've seen them like do karate. I've seen like these little kids punch like wooden boards, and I am terrified of them. So
oh yeah, I remember getting to break boards. That was like the only I'll say the most fun part. Like it's just a kind of a cool thrill to break a board with your hand. So that was cool. Everything else I could kind of take or leave.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Marty gets signed up for a judo class, and then his first opponent is Satoshi, the Eater of Souls.
Judo teaches us size is nothing next to cunning.
All right.
Ah, Marty, your opponent will be Satoshi, the Eater of Souls.
Who has disturbed my 1,000-year sleep?
Which is like, it's a funny gag, but I'm like, what are they making fun of here? I didn't quite get it. Like, is it the fact that like when you take karate, you might get paired up with a kid that's going to kick your ass or something? Like, I don't know. What did you make of this?
I mean, it's I thought it was an easy gag to go with to move it along, but I think like the character's reoccurring bits where he gets the cookie puss and he's playing guitar and stuff, like in the mall. Like, I mean, like it's like, okay, it's like, you know, they don't drag this joke out and they use it just right, but it's not. It's definitely not the strongest joke of the show. I kind of like. I also remember this show was like, well, this and The Simpsons were early like things where they had stores with different pun names. I remember the dojo is called Hey Judo.
Right. Yeah, and I guess Satoshi is kind of like, I guess you would see a character like that in like a, you know, like a kung fu movie or something. So maybe that's what they're going for.
Yeah, I feel like in like one of those mythological things, the one thing that really sticks out, the one thing I swear to God, I know they are a thing, and I know the Beastie Boys, like in their punk rock eras, did a whole song about it. But do you ever remember having a cookie puss like as a kid? Like that's the thing I don't remember like ever having.
No, because that was like a Carvel thing, and we never had Carvel when I was a kid. We only had like Baskin Robbins that would make ice cream cakes. So yeah, never had a cookie puss. Never had God, what are the other ones? There's a whale one. I can't remember what it's called.
Fudgy the Whale. I remember
Fudgy the Whale.
Archer would make jokes about that actually, like every once in a while and stuff. So
yeah, because I think Carvel actually invented the ice cream cake, so they invented all those things, and then like Baskin Robbins and everyone just like ripped them off.
Gotcha. Okay, and you know what too? Since the show's based in New York, Archer was based in New York, like in Beast Boys. I think it's clearly a very like New York and probably New Jersey like based company. So
let's see. I'm just looking up Carvel on Wikipedia real quick. Tom Carvel of the Ice Cream Company. Yeah, so Carvel was mostly in the northeastern United States, it says. So yeah, on the West Coast, we wouldn't have had those.
Yeah, I think like because the thing about Pittsburgh is I always call it's a Midwest city in the East Coast state, because people forget like Pennsylvania, half of it's like on the East Coast, like where there's like obviously Philly to Scranton and stuff. And then, you know, the best part about Philly and Scranton is if you're not happy there, like everything else is just 2 hours away. You know, New York or Delaware, if you want to go there, okay. New Jersey, like wherever you want to go, it's like we don't like those 2 areas to go. And then Pittsburgh and then Lake Erie are on the other side. So I think like I think it was James Carville once said in the 90s, said it's like you got Pittsburgh on one end, Philly on the other, and then Pennsylvania in the or like Alabama in the middle, which I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. It's like it's one of those like weird like northeastern states where it's like it's not exactly Appalachia, but it's almost there, where it's like woods. It's like anytime you have a vacant woods area with like little towns, it's like I don't want to like stereotype that whole area, but it's like there's gonna be some backwards towns, you know.
Sure. I mean, there's towns in California that are the same. Like as soon as you get outside the big city, like yeah, like small rural towns, they all kind of become like that.
Hunter S. Thompson's like Hell's Angels has forever made me scared to go out to Barstow. So,
yeah, I've never been to Barstow, but I've been to San Bernardino, which can give off kind of the same vibe, like the whole Inland Empire, which I think is also where Sons of Anarchy takes place, which kind of tells you all you need to know. Yeah. All right. So yeah, I love that we see Satoshi getting a Cookie Puss cake, and then we see him later playing guitar.
Big girls, don't cry. Big girls, don't cry. Ay, ay, ay. They don't cry.
Which is just somehow a perfect song choice for him. But yeah, that leads Marty to pick up a guitar, and like Jay thinks that's the perfect thing that'll get his self-esteem up. I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, because before this, Jay and Marty go to a fashion store, and they like buy a bunch of new suits and stuff. And this is kind of an important scene in the episode, because when Marty is in the dressing room, he discovers he can roll his stomach, which is going to come back later. But the first person he shows it to, the little girl in the store, not exactly impressed with it.
Hey, Dad, look at this. Ew, gross. Look at his stomach.
Let us fleet the Ho-Hocus and Weehawken, the twin jewels in Joyce's crown.
Yeah, she gets freaked out by it, but yeah, it's one of those talents that's like it's clearly not for everybody. So
no, yeah, I can't please everyone. But I wanted to talk about when they're at the guitar store. They just have this little kind of like meta moment where
it's perfect. Musicians don't have to be handsome. And do they get beautiful women? Let me just say 2 words to you. Lyle Lovett.
I thought he was handsome.
No, you're thinking of John Lovitz. And I agree. With his Sephardic good looks, he takes the cake.
Not the first time they've kind of broken the fourth wall in that way, because there was I forget which episode it is, but like John Lovitz himself has a little animated cameo in the show. Where also Jay just remarks on how handsome he is.
I think that's after they go to a taping. Like Jeremy Hawk is like hosting like what is it called, Thursday Night Live from Passaic, New Jersey. Obviously, yeah.
Yeah, I gotta say, like meta jokes, like breaking the fourth wall jokes. I'm a sucker for those. I always love them. So Jay actually does get Marty a guitar, so they go home with it, and Marty's practicing, and he is, well, you know, he sounds the way everyone sounds when they first play guitar. They sound terrible. But so I guess we're at, I guess it's Ardith's apartment, Jay's ex-wife, and Marty's practicing, and the neighbor is yelling at him to turn it down. Turns out that neighbor is Marty's guitar teacher.
Knock off that racket or I'll call the cops.
His teacher says he's supposed to practice.
I am his teacher.
Yikes. I don't know. Did you ever play an instrument as a kid?
So I remember we had a music class. They taught us how to use a recorder, which
sure
I think every kid has learned how to play at one point in their life. I did try to play the violin a little bit, and
oh, wow.
I could play like very simple, like, you know, very, very, very basic keys on the piano. But it's weird. I could read music, but I could never really play it. You know, like my hand was never really fast enough to keep up with it. You know.
Yeah. I should actually maybe mention my girlfriend is actually a music teacher. Like she literally just finished her master's in teaching from a music school, so she is now a bona fide music teacher.
Nice.
But yeah, so she knows a lot about like music education, especially in like elementary and middle school. And so like the reason they give a lot of kids recorders is, well, A, if you drop it, it doesn't break. And it's also just like, just a cheap, easy to learn, easy to play instrument. And I'm sure like, each school would love to have like, a whole orchestra of instruments that they could let kids play. But, how many schools have a music budget that big,
Yeah, I went to a performing arts high school, and I had a lot of friends. I mean, like, what's funny is I remember when I went to audition there for the theater thing, my theater program, my mom's like, you should watch Fame before you go and audition there. And I was like, I don't know if I want to go there now, actually. So, but I had a lot of friends who were just really like great musical dudes. Like the jazz band guys were always the best. Like they just always like really killed it and stuff. You've been playing drums for a while, right? Or that's
Yeah, I've been playing drums since I was 12 years old. But I never really, like, all my musical knowledge is either just like self-taught or from a private teacher. I never was interested in like joining marching band or taking like a music class in school or whatever. I don't know. I enjoyed it as a hobby where it could just be fun. I never had to play music for homework or anything like that.
You never had like J.K. Simmons teacher from Whiplash, right?
Oh
like,
God, no. But apparently my girlfriend knows people that are like that. So, so yeah, that movie, partially based on truth. But yeah, I gotta say, I love playing music. I will probably play music my entire life. It's just one of those things that always makes me feel better when I do it. So even though like I said, I was never interested in taking music classes in school or whatever, I totally support, let's increase arts funding. Let's give schools more instruments. So that more kids can maybe discover their love of music.
Really quickly, I think you're gonna laugh at this about my performing arts high school. We had no sports teams, but we had a mascot, and our mascot was a unicorn.
Oh my God. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so where were we? Oh yeah, so guitar teacher yells at Marty. So then they watch a news report. So we get kind of this update on the other plot of this show, Duke's, $100 bet on Jay making people laugh. And we get this news report where people are starting to demand their money because Jay's not making people laugh. Though my favorite part of this was the woman who says the Jay Sherman roach spray makes roaches look like Jay Sherman.
I'm sorry. I just don't find Mr. Sherman's antics amusing. And this Jay Sherman roach spray just makes the roaches look like Jay Sherman.
Okay, I can get how, you're disappointed because it's not getting rid of your roach problem, but how impressive is that, though?
Yeah, I mean, like, because I remember, like, both Duke Phillips, like, I have to wonder if that was a Sherman-based, was that a Duke Phillips-based company or a Sherman-based company? Because remember, like, his dad, like, owned a bunch of evil companies that, did stuff.
Oh. You know what? I don't know. They kind of just say it's the Jay Sherman roach spray, so who really knows? Yeah. So then, so then we get introduced to like this lawyer character who, I believe it's Maurice LaMarche doing the voice, but he basically sounds just like, oh God, could not recall that name for some reason. Yeah, the lawyer sounds exactly like Jimmy Stewart.
Mr. Phillips, I'm handling all 3 million prize claims in one class action suit.
Pull up a hot poker and sit down.
You're refusing to pay the prize money you publicly offered. Isn't that just a tad disingenuous?
I don't believe you've met my lawyer.
Tad disingenuous, attorney at law.
So yeah, he kind of goes to Duke's office, points out all the people that are demanding money. And then we see even yeah, Jay's parents are out there.
Mom? Dad? I never made you laugh?
Well, I did chuckle a bit when you tried to eat that bird and fell over the cliff.
No, Franklin, that was the Road Runner.
No, that was me.
Okay, so then back at Artist's house, Marty still plucking away at that guitar. And then he says he's going to play guitar at the school talent show, which, got to give the kid points for confidence.
Yep.
Because, he's been learning guitar for, I don't know, a few days. And, yeah, he wants to show off his awesome skills. That's commendable.
Love that he's also trying to rock a Jimi Hendrix look with a bandana and a vest and stuff. So,
oh, is it? I thought it was maybe Bruce Springsteen is where my mind went. Maybe just because of the headband.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
But yeah, it could be in any of those. Yeah,
he doesn't have the curly hair to be like the boss and the run game. So yeah, actually, yeah.
Yeah, so let's see. So that kind of takes us into Act 3, where now, Jay and Duke have been taken to court. The news reporter is there who, Duke fired in the previous scene, and now he's just kind of doing his report for a little cardboard camera that he just set up himself.
It's such a sad but terrific joke, though.
I know. Oh, man. And then, okay, so then we get into the trial, and in a court scene, there's so many kind of familiar jokes you can go for. I like the ones they do here, where there's so many plaintiffs in the case. The judge,
due to the huge number of plaintiffs in this case, I've decided to house the overflow in the fabulous Meadowlands Sports Complex in Secaucus, New Jersey.
We're all suing Jay Sherman. We want damages too. We're going to take him for every nickel.
You're the reason that we're in this pickle.
Shut up.
Which I've never been to. I assume that's a real place. I mean, I know Secaucus is a real place. I'm talking about the sports complex.
I think that's where it is. I think that's where the Giants play and the Jets play and such. It's
okay.
It's funny. It's I remember because I was listening to the episode, I know they would make Mario Cuomo jokes, but he actually said when Mario Cuomo was governor, he said that they asked me a Jets fan or a Giants fan. He said I'm a Bills fan. And the Bills, but they suck. Yeah, the only real football team that plays in New York. So.
Oh yeah, it's true.
So gotta give them that. That's actually.
Yeah. So then they call Franklin to the stand, and I don't know if they established it in the show at this point, but yeah, Franklin used to be governor of New York, which is why he says,
"Why, hello, Judge. Didn't I appoint you?"
No, you appointed Mr. Potato Head, but the voters recalled him.
Your Honor, I was hypnotized.
Total Franklin move.
Was
you totally imagine that. Yeah. All right. So then Duke takes the stand, and I thought they were going to go for a Few Good Men parody because Duke is even dressed in a military uniform.
Me too. Yeah.
Which I believe he's stealing valor because Duke doesn't seem like the type that would serve in the military.
He also, I feel too, that joke was an Ollie North reference as well. I mean, I know Ollie North was involved in the Iran-Contra thing, but I mean, that outfit and stuff is totally Ollie North, Colonel Ollie North and stuff. And because he's talking about.
I'll answer the question.
Don't answer that question.
Damn it, I'm going to answer the question. Yes, I sold the mustard gas to Gaddafi.
Sir, this is the Jay Sherman trial.
I mean, mustard gives me gas, as does taffy.
Oh yeah, the Ollie North thing totally didn't occur to me, but I'll bet that's it. Cause yeah, Duke is also very right wing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's actually like I said, if Futurama revitalized Nixon jokes, then again a lot of the writers went over to do that show as well. I feel they really, they did a lot of Clinton jokes as they had to. They definitely did. I think it was them and the Critic and SNL did a lot of great Ross Perot jokes, but I remember they had some really good Reagan jokes that they were able to squeeze in too, and Reagan references. So
yeah, although who did the best Ross Perot jokes was
No.
All That on Nickelodeon.
Oh my God, Amanda Bynes.
No,
No,
it wasn't.
not Amanda Bynes.
It
It was
wasn't
the other-
Amanda Bynes. It was pre Amanda Bynes. It was like the original cast, and I forget the cast member's name, but yeah, it was like this young girl doing Ross Perot, which is God, it was so good.
I got $100 million. I got that much, you know. By the way, random thing. Apparently, like Tara McKillen from SNL was on that show for like a season, but I cannot remember which season that is. I mean, we all obviously remember Keaton and Cal and Christopher and Amanda Bynes and all them, but like I think I need to do some digging for that season.
And I was always shocked that Lori Beth Denberg never took off as a comedian. She was so good on that show.
I mean, the library character was such a terrific reoccurring bit, you know?
And I loved, oh God, what was it? It was like where she gave out like life tips or whatever.
Yeah.
I forget what that segment was called.
I think the last thing I saw her on, she made a guest appearance on an episode of Workaholics where she's just sitting in a hot tub smoking weed with the guys and stuff. So
that's
and
perfect.
Her being her, you know, it's like, and they're all starstruck by it. So
Oh, cool. Okay, I'll have to track that episode down.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So after Duke is off the stand, Jay approaches the bench.
Were those your pants?
Your Honor, this trial has been such a strain. If you could just walk a mile in my pants.
Mr. Sherman, I could walk a mile inside your pants.
That's it. I will not be ridiculed anymore.
Well, Mr. Sherman, it appears you do make people laugh. Case dismissed.
His boxers has something on them too. Like,
Oh, they say rear window. Because they always have the name of a movie on them.
oh yeah, and that's actually the perfect like movie title to have on the back of a pair of boxers.
Although in a previous episode he has backdraft across his butt, which is also perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the judge dismisses the case, and that wraps up that plot with like 5 minutes left in the episode. So, so that's great. So that leaves the rest of the episode basically takes place at the talent show at back at the UN school. So let's see. So then, there's just that brief scene of like Ardith and Jay talking to Marty, and then the Easter Island kid rides by on a unicycle. Got to bring back the Easter Island kid.
Oh yeah.
But then the first act in the actual talent show is an Iraqi kid who does impressions. He does Tony Curtis and Johnny Carson.
Thank you. Hey, wouldn't it be funny if Tony Curtis spoke honestly about U.S. policy in the Mideast? I think it might go something like this. Hey, what do you think? We're trying to take over. We're the great Satan. What do you think, Johnny Carson?
May a constipated camel lay a caca in your couscous.
Which I gotta say, I loved his routine. That kid, he's going places.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, those impressions were just like, were spot on too. It's like they totally could have Andy Kaufman Latka that bit, like, where it was like, I'm Jimmy Carter, President of the United States.
Yeah.
But they didn't. So,
well, I think they kind of go that route with when Vlada's son Zoltan gets up there.
Oh yeah.
This is kind of the like let's make fun of the foreign kid thing where he's singing his national anthem, which again they never say what country it is, but he's singing his national anthem, and it sounds like he's saying like
Beep, 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 boop, beep. You don't understand. He's singing of all the people who died in the earthquake, fire, and famine of 1805. Beep, 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 boop, beep.
like Vlada like intervenes and like shames people for laughing at it, which seems like okay, that's appropriate, but then they just double down on it.
Yeah, it's like some sort of horrific like massacre that happened in the 1800s and such, and like, and they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, this whole joke was like the one part of the episode that made me just feel a little uncomfortable because also when Mangasuthu introduces Zoltan, there's a transphobic joke where he says he's a boy who used to be a girl.
And that used to be a secret. So
yeah. Another, like, I've pointed out those jokes before on this show. So yeah, not everything ages well, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why it's like those jokes. I mean, like, obviously, like, those jokes don't hold up really well now and stuff, but it's like, I don't know. Even as a kid, like, I was just like, I don't know why. I was just like, whenever I heard those jokes, like, they didn't offend me because I didn't really understand, but I'd be all like, what's the gag here?
Right. Yeah. Just that he's kind of, I don't know, effeminate or something.
Like, okay.
Yeah. Whatever. But yeah, so moving on. Next we get, so we get just this brief scene of Marty backstage getting ready, and Mangasuthu says,
"No pressure, Marty, but the Pope and Nelson Mandela are in the audience, and they came to party."
I enjoy that. Pretty fancy school if they can draw, the Pope and Nelson Mandela just to watch the talent show.
And this was the 90s where they still had John Paul II before,
Yeah.
they had to go through him, then the not so good fun, and then the cool Pope comes around, Frank, so.
Right. Yeah. So then so next we get Andrea Hernandez from Mexico playing guitar. So that kind of takes the wind out of Marty's sails because, well, there's another guitar player, so what's he going to do now? And then I enjoy the fact that she kind of changes from, this kind of like soft acoustic kind of playing to like just like a shredding solo on an acoustic guitar, which is especially impressive. I should probably share this. I actually did do my high school talent show when I was a senior. Me and my brother were in a band, so our band played, and that was like our first public performance.
Did you guys play an original song, or did you do a cover of anything? Something?
No, yeah, we played an original. We played it was an instrumental because we didn't have a singer. But yeah, it was awesome. It was like this sort of kind of fusion influenced like prog metal song. I say that even though like we were still a high school band, so don't get any like grand ideas about how good it sounded. But I thought we did a really great job. I had a lot of fun. And then our band stayed together for a couple of years after that. We played the Whiskey a Go-Go a couple times, which is as far as we got. So yeah, being in a band, it's fun. I recommend it.
Remember going to live shows?
Yeah. Well, someday. I still think it'll return someday.
I mean, I'm okay with like having to go. Here's the thing. I'm okay if it's like if we still have to wear masks and be like aside from stuff. Because I've been thinking. I mean, not to get off topic, but I've just been thinking about that. It's like I'm wondering like what are going to be the guidelines for whether it's the pack or a live show, like whether it's a big venue, small venue, like how they're gonna do it and stuff for a little while and such.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be a lot of trial and error as they figure that out, as I think AMC recently discovered, where they were like, we're not going to make people wear masks. We don't want to get into all that. And then people were just like, what the hell are you talking about? And they quickly reversed that decision. So
AMC's been one of the dumbest corporate chains like during this whole thing. Because remember, like Universal was like, you know what? We'll just put the movies on demand for everybody. Here you go. And they're like, but we're not going to screen them. It's like, really?
Oh yeah.
Go back and think about that one for a bit.
And AMC was the chain that got into the like the legal battle over Trolls World Tour, right?
I think so. What was the deal with that one? Like,
something like how, Trolls World Tour kind of came out like right as quarantine happened. So they released it straight to VOD. Or it was in theaters and then they put it on VOD as it was like still making its theatrical run. And it made so much money on VOD that they were like, oh, why didn't we just do this in the first place? And that that like pissed off AMC so much that they were like not going to show that studio's movies anymore.
Talk about being petty. Like, seriously, it's like...
it's also just kind of awesome that Trolls World Tour is the movie that's going to change the way we see movies.
I mean, if there ever was a movie that had to revolutionize things...
It's going to be Trolls World Tour. Here's just another quick sidebar, but kind of just a conversation topic me and like friends get into sometimes is what was the last movie you saw in theaters before quarantine?
Ooh, God, that's a good one. I'm trying to think of what that was. Was it Oh, okay. So I live close to the Landmark Theater on Pico. I think this was the last movie. I don't remember, but it was this movie called what's it called? Oh, the name of it's even escaped me, but it's based on a true story. And it's basically, it has Forrest Whitaker in it. He plays this like black minister in a small South Carolina town. And the Ku Klux Klan builds like a museum across the street from him. He's trying to like basically protest it. And when the one kid in the Klan, like his Grand Wizard, who's basically like his father like figure, tells him to go up on the roof and like shoot him. But then this little kid gets in the way and he doesn't do it. He gets disowned by the Klan. And basically, like when he gets disowned, he's like becomes homeless. He doesn't have anybody, so he like takes him in. And basically sort of helps like him sort of see the light. It's actually it was actually really well done. I just can't remember the name of it, but it was like one of those like indie movies that like I just saw a Facebook or Instagram ad for, and I was just like, you know what? There's nothing I really am interested in seeing right now. This looks like it, so I think it is. What about you? What's your last movie?
So for me, it was almost gonna be Sonic the Hedgehog because me and the girlfriend saw that together Valentine's Day weekend. My idea, obviously. But no, we ended up seeing Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which was really good.
Yeah, what's funny is that poster for that movie is still up outside the Landmark Theater.
Oh,
like it is a little sad to see, but it's like I just I don't know. I think like when movie theaters are allowed to open, are you gonna risk it, or are you gonna wait for a little bit? Do you think?
I was thinking about this because like I think when theaters open, they're gonna do things like they're only gonna fill the theaters to like half capacity or even less. They're gonna make you wear a mask. They're probably gonna charge even more for snacks and soda to make up for the lost ticket sales. So I'm thinking like, if I'm going to go see a movie in a theater, it better be the best damn movie I've ever seen in my life. Because if I go through all that and then see a shitty or even an okay movie, I'm going to be pissed.
Yeah. All I know is this: Christopher Nolan is refusing to like not let Tenet be. Like, he really wants Tenet out in theaters. He really wants it. So,
I saw that quote he said where he's like, yeah, like if you're not seeing it in a theater, you're not getting the true experience or whatever. It's like, come off it.
Dude, it's like, come on. It's like, I paid money to watch The King of Staten Island on stuff. And like, I really enjoyed it a lot because I like Judd Apatow, and I think like, I know people have mixed feelings about Pete Davidson, but it's like it's his personal story. He does it pretty well, but I'm like, it's like I have no problem, dude. I have no problem paying that to see like your movie on Amazon or on demand. It's like, relax. It's like I really don't. There's really not a lot of movies that you really need to see on IMAX or the big screen and stuff. Like I think the last two movies I think I've ever seen on IMAX were Skyfall, which I really did enjoy, but I was like, I don't need to see this on IMAX. But I think like AC of Daniel Craig falling out of a plane looks cool. But besides that, it's like, see this in theater. And the other one almost made me hate going to IMAXs. It was my friend wanted to see remember the Shine a Light Rolling Stones like concert movie that Martin Scorsese did back like 10 years ago?
Oh, okay. I don't, but I believe it.
Nobody should ever have to see Keith Richards or Mick Jagger, those guys' faces blown up. I was afraid if I looked away from the screen, they would be dead.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm sure you get I'm sure all their like wrinkles and scars were rendered in exquisite detail.
Yeah, good concert. I mean, looked like a fun concert. They randomly brought Buddy Guy out and stuff. Okay. There is a weird scene where Mick Jagger and Christina Aguilera do a solo, and Mick Jagger's kind of grinding up on Christina Aguilera. And it's like, it's like, I don't know, like even on a regular theater, that just would look so weird.
Yeah, that's a real May-December romance. Oh man. Well, speaking of musicians, we got Angia Hernandez playing her ripping solo at the talent show, which just leaves Marty, who still is going to give it his all. He goes out there with his guitar, he starts playing, and then he almost immediately breaks a string, which, I don't play guitar, so I've not been in that situation, but, that has happened in, to the guitarists of the bands I'm playing in. They'll break a string on stage, which, so if you have the forethought to bring a spare guitar with you, it's not a big deal. But, for poor Marty, he kind of just hits the eject button, and then he brings back his stomach rolling talent.
This is the only other thing I know how to do.
Which this time it goes over a lot better. The band starts playing along with it, and the crowd really gets into it.
Something like that, it just proves it's like you just gotta sync it up with music, and boom, it pays off.
Yeah. Yeah, and he he does a lot of he really takes the concept of rolling your stomach as far as it can go. He gets a pipe from a guy in the audience, and he makes it look like a little pirate is like smoking, or not a pirate, but like an old sailor guy. And then perhaps most impressively, he recreates the soldiers raising the flag on Iwo Jima, and he makes them actually raise the flag. It's kind of amazing.
I mean, it's like I'm trying to think. Did this episode come out before the Homer Palooza episode on The Simpsons?
That's a good question. I think it probably did.
I mean, both shows shared a writing staff at some point, and then had their own people and stuff too. So it's it just kind of makes sense. But I could sort of see how if the show had run longer, that probably would have been another plot line, another plot for an episode. But it works really well. That's still one of my favorite, top favorite Simpsons episodes for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've actually been revisiting The Simpsons lately. So I watched, of course, the Critic crossover episode. I watched 22 short films about Springfield, which is, oh God, so good.
It's funny. I remember there was an event at the Writers Guild where Judd Apatow was anytime Judd Apatow was either being hosted or was hosting an event, he had a thing where he was hosting all the TV nominated writers, and Ian Maxtone Graham was nominated for the Gone Baby Gone type Maggie episode. And the best part is the program, they have their faces and a little bio about them. For Ian Maxtone Graham, it's the picture of the super tall guy in the Volkswagen. I immediately went up to him after, really nice guy, and I went up to him and started laughing. I said, "By the way, this is awesome." He said, "That's me, right?" I was like, "What?" It's
oh my God.
You are pretty tall. Yeah, actually, I remember Greg Daniels and the team pulled me in, and I thought I was getting fired because they made it sound so serious, and they're like, "We need to animate you for an episode and make fun of your height."
Oh man.
Okay.
Oh my God. So I don't think I've shared this on the podcast before, but so I went to Loyola Marymount University here in Los Angeles, which I found out is where a couple of Simpsons producers went. Like I think it's where David S. Cohen went, and maybe Sam Simon. I don't know, I forget. But in any case, there's a few things from LMU that made it into the show. Like there's a neighborhood bar that's the basis for Moe's Tavern, and one of the teachers clearly inspired the look of Mr. Burns, because if you see a picture of him, yeah, he's got the bald head and the pointy nose. It's like it looks exactly like Mr. Burns. So yeah, that's my connection.
Oh yeah, I've heard of the story about the bar for sure. A lot of good, like, yeah. There's, sorry, we don't want to go over. It's like if we start talking about The Simpsons, this is gonna go on for hours.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But I did want to make sure before we finish this episode, you were saying before we started recording, you knew someone who kind of reminded you of the Critic.
Yeah, so I don't want to say his name. He's a really nice guy, and I think he's got a great sense of humor, but I don't want to say it. But so I moved out here in the summer 2007. My first job, and I was out here on Temple University's film program. And basically I got an internship through a Temple alum who owned a reality TV company that did stuff like shooting Sizemore and Breaking Bonaducci and just like, VH1 at its heyday, if you will. And they were doing a show that was at the time being produced by Drew Barrymore and her boyfriend, who was the drummer of the Strokes, Fat Morietti. And I got to meet him a few times. He was really cool. But it was called Clash of the Music Videos, where they would have people like recreate a music video from the 1980s, and they would be judged by the actual musicians about how they did it and stuff. But the host of the show was he was definitely like a personality guy, but he was the real life looking version and sounded exactly like Jay Sherman. And I remember my boss was like, "Hey Sam, we're shooting a promo thing. We need somebody to interview you. Can you go out and do it?" I was like, "Sure." I didn't know who the interviewer was. I just step out there and I just see real life Jay Sherman right there interviewing me, and I am like blown away. And he's asking me all these questions about who did this or that song. I'm nailing all these questions too, actually. So, but it was just I was just blown away to see the real life Jay Sherman.
Nice. That's cool. Let's see. All right, so we're just about to the end of this episode. So after Marty is the hit of the talent show, we flash forward 20 years later, which according to the timeline of this show would make it 2014, I believe. So that's the past now. But Marty has made it all the way to Carnegie Hall, which is sold out according to the sign. And Marty is now an adult and a very successful, performer, I guess you would say, still doing his stomach rolling thing.
Before I begin my concert, I would like to honor my father. From him I learned not to give up, that you'll find you're the best at something. And today I'm the world's greatest stomach virtuoso, and he is the world's fattest man.
That's my boy.
They just show Jay, who's now he's huge, and and that ends the episode. I love the nice little note that we go out on. Marty has found his talent, and looks like all is right with the world.
What's funny is now, it's obviously hard for them to predict what would have happened 40 years ago, but I feel like Marty Sherman would be a contestant on America's Got Talent and would make it into the final bit stuff. It's he would convince 3 out of the 4 judges and such, and there'd just be that one judge who just would never let him go forward. I don't know who that would be. I feel like if Howie Mandel's still on the show, I feel like Howie would vote to let him keep going on.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he is. I don't watch that show, to be honest. But but I actually know a few people that have been on that show, because they'll be, they'll find like a comedian in Los Angeles, or find a performer who just does something so wacky and outrageous that, like, they know they'll never make it to the second round, but they just need something entertaining for 5 minutes to put on TV. So they get a spot on America's Got Talent. And I know a few people that have been in that position at this point.
Yeah. Did I think Fembot got onto America's Got Talent.
Fembot PhD, local sketch team here in Los Angeles. Shout outs to them. They're all amazing. They did some sort of like chicken dance number kind of thing. They're just one of those acts that, just gets eliminated right away. But, good for them for taking it that far.
And I feel like if this was like Jay now, he'd just have like My 300-Pound Life on like one of those,
yeah,
which is just like, wow. Okay.
Or like, My 300-Pound Life, or isn't there, I don't know. I'm trying to think of one of those other shows about like, I don't know, extreme eaters or something. He'd probably be on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that kind of brings us to the end of the episode. I think this episode is kind of all over the place, to be honest. I kind of like it, but it doesn't quite crack like into my favorite Critic episodes for me.
Yeah, there's not really a strong A story or B story with this one. Like, I feel like, I feel like, and I think like there's some episodes, obviously, they have a very strong like A story, and the B story is very minimal. But I think they really try to like split this up, and I feel like they can't figure out what's the most dominant one. And again, I'm kind of curious to know like why Keeler named this episode after two Marx Brothers episodes. Was this just like Marx Brothers movies? I'm just wondering, was this just like a filler episode and just like I'm trying to think if there's like some Marx Brothers references in that episode that I've missed, but
looking at it again, I think, this is kind of a stretch, but like a day at the races and a night at the opera, that kind of corresponds to the field day at the UN school, and then the talent show being the day and the night thing.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. That's like, I remember like, going back and preparing for this podcast, I read the title of this episode and I'm like, wait, what was this one about? Like, because that gives me no clue. I had to actually watch it and then, just kind of pay attention to what was going on.
Yeah, and again, I agree with you. They really underutilized some of the best like recurring characters. I mean, I will always want more of Jay's dad in anything,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I'll still take even a mediocre Critic episode over most other shows. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that's going to do it for us. Sam, what would you like to plug, or what would you like to let people know about?
You can check out, let's see, I mean, I'm always writing, but you can check out my photography work on my Instagram at Sam Sero, SAMSERO. And I do write a lot about like upcoming like U.S. Senate races and congressional races and such on the Daily Kos. So if you want to check that out, it's dailykos.com / like no joke poop dog comedy, like Snoop Dogg.
It's, oh my God. I feel like I should get into a long discussion about all the like police protests that have been going on and how people are pressuring their local politicians to defund the police. But
absolutely,
I think we've been podcasting for long enough for one day.
I hope we didn't go over. I apologize.
But cool. So yeah, everyone check out Sam on the Daily Kos. And again, if you want to get in touch with this show, itstinkspod@gmail.com or itstinkspod on Twitter or Instagram. Would love to hear any questions, comments, concerns that anyone has, or concerns. I don't know why anyone would be concerned, but if you have one, yeah, let me know about it. Cool. So that'll do it for us. Thanks for joining me for this episode of It Stinks, the Critic podcast. Thank you for listening to this episode of It Stinks, the Critic podcast. I'm your host, Brian Rubinow. Our theme song is by Brandon Beck. You can email the podcast at itstinkspod@gmail.com and find us on Twitter and Instagram at itstinkspod.